Hello everyone, Leah here, and in today's video I'm going to take you along the journey of creating a fall-inspired painting. The weather's starting to get much cooler here, and it's not quite autumn yet, but some trees are starting to change. Now, I already know what I want to do color-wise, but I'm not too sure what I'm going to be painting just yet. But I thought I'd share with you the color palette first before I decide what to paint. And I'm going to go with the warmer, earthier tones on this side and throw in some complementary colors here. So I've already selected my color palette from my swatch cards. So I'm going to have these colors here. And here are going to be my complementary colors that I'm going to have sprinkled in throughout the painting. Because I'm not too sure what I want to paint, I'm grabbing the Art Blox Box and I'm just gonna pick something that strikes to my creative juices as soon as I see it first. So I'm just gonna open this up. And autumn's like right on the top, but you know what? No, not feeling it. Let's pick something else. Ooh. I think I'm going to do these flowers. If you guys aren't aware already, the Art Blox Box that I have here is something that I've created, and I am going to be taking to Kickstarter very soon. I'm not too sure when this video will be airing, so it'll either be live at the time of this video going live or it'll be coming up soon. So if you're interested in getting something that has the ability to help you come up with creative ideas, full of prompts, color palettes, photographs, the Art Blox Box is for you. So the first thing I want to do is get my surface ready. I'm going to be painting on this already pre-gessoed sheet of paper, so I need to stick it down. Now, I've run out of my favorite tape. It's so sad, but that's okay. This will work. Just gotta kind of like, it's really sticky, so I just gotta get my fingers on there to get some, you know, hand oil on it from your skin. It's not a pretty job, but it'll do. So step one is figuring out what color I want as my base. I like how it's pops of color on top of a dark background. So do I want it to be these colors as the flowers? Or do I want it to be one of these greens? Like say for example, this ash green, it's a nice dark color. But you know what? In the end, I ended up choosing to mix one of my brown matter, the really dark kind of reddish brown color that I have for the palette, with some black and getting a really deep dark tone. And I didn't mix it completely. So as you can see, while I'm, squishing my paint around and moving it around on the page, that the paint and the colors are kind of mixing as they're being applied to the page. It creates what I find to be a dynamic background. So you'll have lighter areas, darker areas, different colored mixes. It's really fun. Now the next stage of this background is to splash on my green. I'm going to be using my complementary colors as background filler to put in an applied leaf greenery foliage type thing. So I don't want for my painting for there to be actual leaves. I want the focus to be on the flowers, which is why I'm doing this implied abstract flicking of the colors. I will note, you didn't see me do it on camera, but I did map out where I wanted to put my flowers by drawing a circle. If you're going to be doing the same kind of floral painting as I am today, I recommend doing this just rough draft shape onto your painting so you can, it'll help with shaping the flowers a bit. A pointer I want to do before we start talking about colors and fall and things like that is when you're mixing your colors, don't mix them completely. Let some of it be, one shade or one tone a little bit differently than the other. It'll create an interesting dynamic to your petals, to your flowers, even for your greenery, for other things that you're doing. I find personally that I really like that look. Another thing that you want to keep your eye on is the type of colors that you have. Some of them are completely opaque, where others are going to be semi-transparent or transparent. And when you do a little bit of a mixture of those kinds together, you can also create good dynamics to your paintings. So especially with this kind of painting that I'm doing right now, where I have a really dark background and I'm painting lighter colors on top, because some of these colors, especially my phthalo yellow, is kind of like a orangey yellow. It's not 100% opaque, so when I'm laying it down on the areas that are the solid phthalo, you can see the color behind it, and that adds an interesting depth to the petals and to the overall painting itself. Another tip I just want to go over before we start talking about how to find fall colors and use this time of year as inspiration for our art, I want to just point out another tip for these kinds of flowers where they're circular and they don't have much petal movement. Move your paintbrush. So instead of always having it shaped the same way, if you turn the handle a little, especially if you're using, say, a flat brush like I tend to use, instead of always having the same shape for each petal, if you slightly move your brush as you're going, you're going to create movement within your petals in that way. It allows everything to not have such a uniformity to it. That being said, perhaps you actually want uniformity. And if that is the case, if you are the opposite of me, keep your brush at the same angle for each petal that you're doing. If you're not too sure what your preference is, try it out both ways. Grab a loose sheet of paper or your sketchbook and do different movements with your paintbrush. Grab one type of flower. Grab this flower. I don't know what it's called, but paint it with me as I'm doing this painting, Grab your stuff, sit down. First, pause this movie right now, and then come back to my video. And when you do, move your paintbrush around, or don't move it. Try it out. See if you like it. You never know. When it comes to the seasons, spring and fall are by far my most favorite of them all. Once upon a time when I was a child, I would have said winter because that meant snow days and no school. Now that I'm an adult, I don't get snow days. So, yeah. But when it comes to creating colors, these seasons I feel offer such amazing opportunities for expression of emotions. Spring comes with bright colors and an array of things, but fall has this magic to it, this feeling. You can literally smell it in the air. Everything starts to shift and change. Now, I do recognize that could be just regionally because of where I am in Canada. I experience the 4 seasons, or 5 or 6. Sometimes mid-fall it turns into summer again. But, it happens. I get to experience these things, and fall just has this magical feeling to me. So when I feel inspired to create or to put a painting together inspired by this season, I don't necessarily need to create a fall scene of the changing leaves in a landscape painting. And neither do you. If you want to have the essence of fall in your paintings but still paint florals, because you're just like me, flowers are your happy place, or maybe animals are your happy place, or just still lives, and nature just isn't your thing, that's okay. But you can still have the fall vibe, the coziness, the amazing thing of magicalness that is fall by selecting certain colors for your color palette. As I'm recording this voiceover, I noticed that the noises outside my window feel really loud. So if you can hear some trucks in the background, I apologize for the noises. So I'm going to keep going. But basically, the colors that you want to have this type of fall feeling need to have an earthier feeling to them, an earthier tone. And when I say earthy, I don't necessarily mean sticking to your shades of browns. You can have earthy greens and pinks and reds. They're usually more on the muted side. So for example, one of my most popular watercolor palettes for color that I have put together for myself is called my Autumn Watercolor Palette. And with it, I made this array of colors through the Roman Schmalz brand of watercolors. If you are familiar with my channel, I use it frequently, and I also get inquiries about what those colors are. So here they are. I'm using things like buff titanium, natural sienna, quinacridone burnt sienna, Venetian red, potter's pink, cypress burnt umber, and even their Aquarius black. And these are all colors that encompass the changing leaves, some nice gritty pinks and reds, and I have browns in there as well. And the white, the buff titanium, instead of using a bright crisp white, I'm using a warmer toned white to mix my colors and to have as my accenting, blank space area. Using warm tones like that help bring in the autumn feeling into your palettes. So for today's painting, when I'm mixing my colors, I'm not using white to make them more opaque and to make them brighter as I'm going to the lighter tones. I'm actually using the unbleached titanium from Charvin. Charvin is my favorite acrylic paint brand. They have really nice colors in their variety and options. And one of the things that I really like about using, say, for example, this unbleached titanium is the fact that it's more on the yellow side. So it's a warmer toned paint, which will then make the colors that I'm mixing it with have an undertone of a warmer color. And that's the key to creating your autumn palettes. And it's to have warm toned colors. So you can still have blue, because in autumn, we still have blue skies, but you want to have a warmer blue that you're using versus a cool blue. So for example, a phthalo blue can come in a green shade, a red shade, and if you want to go warmer, you would go with the red shade versus the green, because the green is the cooler tone where the red is the warmer. As well as I really prefer to use ultramarine blue. It has a warmer undertone to the color itself. A way to know if you're on the warmer side of your color palette is if you have a color wheel in front of you, you can see that the ones that start to veer towards your blues and your greens on that side will start to give you an indication as to what side of that spectrum you're on. So when I was creating my color palettes for today's painting, I was trying to stick towards the warmer tone colors. I will note that some of the greens that I used as my complementary colors were slightly on the cooler side versus the warm side, and it's just because I'm at that stage in my creative journey where I'm feeling bolder with mixing the two together to see what kind of results I get. But if you're still at that point where you're still learning art, or you're not ready to really branch out and maybe fudge the lines a little where the rules are, you want to just learn the basics first, you don't have to do things like that. You don't have to do the exact same colors that I've done. But if you would like to know how to identify if your color is a warmer or a cooler tone versus using a color wheel, because you might be the type of person that likes to swatch out their colors, and it is something I highly recommend to do. So swatching out your colors, creating swatch cards, and having these colors as references, because when you hold them next to each other, you can see whether or not these colors go well together. So I'm going to use the pink that I used for today's painting for the highlights of these flowers, and it's the Caribbean pink from Charvin. It's got a nice muted appearance. It is slightly on the warm side in my opinion. And I feel this way because when I hold it against extremely warm colors like my brown madder, which is the red color that I used for the flowers, I feel like there's a harmony between the two. But when I hold it next to a colder tone, depending on that color itself, it feels more like it clashes a little, like the colors don't fit right when I look at it. And that's a good way that you can tell whether or not your colors are warmer or cooler. So if you have two different types of blues, for example, a phthalo blue and an ultramarine blue, you can have them next to each other and just look at them and say, what does it look? Does it look cooler or does it look warmer? If it was, say, for example, a winter's day, which one would you associate with winter versus, say, summer when it's warmer? Those kinds of things. If you use the seasons to help you put your colors into categories, it might help you overall figure out warm tones, cool tones. These are things that I found helped me to classify the colors that I have. Now, we are going to be reaching the end of the video shortly, and I just want to switch over back to the flowers that you got to watch unfold for today's video and tell you about how creating this type of floral, and how I mentioned moving your paintbrushes around to give your leaves movement can add life to your paintings, so can just having highlights added to the leaves and the petals and the things that will allow the viewer to just get an idea of where light might be hitting it. And you don't need to be precise. You can just put little dots, lines, smudges in areas and wiggle your brush around while you're doing it. And another way that you can add implied direction and where the sun is coming from is how the center of your flower is appearing. So where the highlighted areas in the center area, are they pointing to your right? Are they dead center? Are they to the left? It'll help give direction to what you've created and how people see it. All right, and now the painting is complete. You've seen the full... Here's what I'm thinking now that I've looked at this painting. I really like how I've created these flowers. They're textural. They have the implied impression of the flowers that are here. They're not direct replicas of them. They have this whimsy to them, and I really like that. The only thing I think I would do differently is the background. I think if I were to paint these which I will most likely be painting these flowers again, I would do it a little differently. So I would change the color of the background. But this does feel very fall to me because of the colors, and and I'm really liking how this painting turned out. I hope you have fun doing your fall flowers if you'd like to paint along with me. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. If you are interested in the Art Blox Box, hit up my website. There's a link in the description below where you can find out more information about it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're interested in learning more about art supplies, and using art as a tool towards healing, hit that subscribe button down below. And until next time, stay magical.